Welcome to the show today, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are here in California on the road for our university speaking tour and some other events. And so we have some wonderful guests on the podcast this trip. And so we wanted to sit down with a new buddy of mine, cut from the same cloth, a culture warrior that's going around poking bears in the eye and causing the transgender mob to start manifesting their inner legions. And I'm speaking about Jarret Lemaster, the executive producer of video content at the Babylon Bee and a worship pastor. Man, isn't that cool? But if only we could have more worship pastors that were as committed to honoring their king in the public square instead of just on stage on Sunday. And that's exactly what Jarret's doing and what he's been called to do. So we're going to talk about all things the culture of death, guys. We're going to talk about the importance and power of satire and mocking to expose the deeds of darkness, to prick people's conscience, to awaken moral intuitions, and to show the rotten, kooky conclusions of liberalism. Because if you don't like the conclusions of your worldview, maybe you should go back and examine the premises you've imbibed that have brought you to such said kooky conclusion. And that's exactly what Jarret and his folks and friends over at the Babylon Bee are doing. Buckle up, you're in for a treat. I'm Seth Gruber, and this is Unaborted. Jarret, welcome to the show today, brother.
Wow, thanks for having me. That was quite an intro. And thank you so much. It's great. It's great being here. Thank you so much for having me, Seth.
We got connected recently through a mutual friend, and I had been following you for a bit and just loved your new contributions to the Babylon Bee, and particularly your portrayal of Satan, I believe. Satan's,
he goes by many names. He goes by many names.
His press response to the overturning of Roe v. Wade, which we have to talk about because that was one of the most brilliant, hilarious things I've ever seen. But Jarret, for people who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself. Okay, who is Jarret Lemaster?
Yeah.
Badass last name, by the way. And how did you become kind of the culture warrior that you are today?
You know, it's probably a progression. It was an evolution over time. I've been a worship pastor for a long time. Before that, I was an actor. So I had been an actor for about 5 or 6 years, and I felt like God was telling me to quit and go into ministry because I felt like I was not being very effective. Like I was telling other people's stories. I liked the stories I was telling at the time, but I didn't have any control over anything. And I kind of went into Hollywood thinking I was going to be a missionary. And the Lord needed me to stop. I don't know why, but he asked me to stop. So I decided to stop, and obey him. And I went into the ministry and started doing young adults ministry, which when you get into young adults ministry, you start to deal with a lot of philosophy. You start to deal with a lot of the cultural issues that are going on. In terms of, like you're passionate about the anti-abortion and pro-life stuff. I am too. And a lot of my early ministry experience kind of like fueled my engagement with that. I was passionate about it before, but the experiences that I had with some of the people that I was ministering to kind of opened up my eyes and made me realize what an important issue it was. And there were ways that I could have a voice in the ministry. And so I was doing that for a long time. Got called into worship music too, kind of using some of the skills that I have just to kind of serve the kingdom. And so I started doing that. And then over and every once in a while I would get like voiceover stuff. So I was doing voiceovers for movies in Hollywood. I was doing, narrating audiobooks. So I still had my feet in the Hollywood thing, my toes. But yeah, it just seems to be like the Lord kind of used all that ministry stuff to kind of build me up so that I could be more effective later. And then about a year ago, I started praying. I started kind of feeling like I hit like this ceiling in ministry. And I was like, I don't know what's going on. I feel like I've kind of I've got to do something else. I maybe go back into acting and stuff. So I started praying about it, and I found out the Babylon Bee was closed. And so I asked, it was like a year and a half ago, I started asking the Lord, I was like, please, can I please work for the Babylon Bee? I really want to start doing stuff with them. I'm very passionate about what they're passionate about. I love their jokes. And it's funny because within about 2 months, the Lord opened up the door, and I started working with those guys, and I was there part-time for a while. Then they brought me on full-time about 6 months ago to be the executive producer of all the sketch stuff. And now I cast those sketches and I produce, meaning I bring all the disparate pieces together. We have a lot of writers. So like you asked about the Satan sketch, Kyle did the writing on that. We punched it up as a group, but it was like Kyle wrote that, right? So like he's kind of our brilliant writer, and we have Adam Yenser as our writer. We have a lot of amazing writers. And a lot of times I just am part of like, I get like 1 or 2 jokes in there, but like, I'm the performer, right? I interpret their amazing work. So that's kind of my job. But yeah, dude, like that's kind of how I got into where I am now. And from there, like I worked with Carrie and Chuck, and this was interesting. I guess maybe 5 years ago, I got a movie called Unplanned. I don't know if you guys remember that one. Obviously, you guys are pro-lifers, so yes, you probably do remember Unplanned. So I played a small part in that, developed a relationship with Chuck and Carrie, the directors. I was just in Nefarious, which is in theaters right now. And anyway, so that kind of like kicked me off into the pro-life movement even deeper, getting to meet like Abby Johnson and a lot of those folks that are doing the work, the actual work of the pro-life stuff. So love those folks and very much behind them. And so you meet other people that are passionate about, like Kevin Sorbo. And so anyway, all these folks are all the pro-life people that we all need to band together and save babies' lives and stop the madness and kick Molech in the nuts. Yeah, that's kind of the goal.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's right. Well said. So one of the critiques I get sometimes, Jarret, and I'm sure the B gets this too. So I would love for you to kind of talk to this and kind of offer an apologetic and a defense of of mocking and satire, because I go pretty hard against the culture of death. And this podcast, Ephesians 5:11, expose the deeds of darkness, and I don't hold back from mocking bad ideas and stupid ideas and morally bankrupt ideas, and even taking them to their logical and sometimes asinine and weird kooky conclusions, because ideology is a hell of a drug. And so I'm often told, hey Seth, can you reel it back for us? If you're going to speak for us, can you not say that? Can you not say it that way? That's a little bit too much. Hey, you know what? You're really harming and offending some people who are pro-life, and they would partner to our ministry and donate if you just wouldn't be so offensive. So just reel it back in a little bit. Don't go so hard. Say peace where there is no peace. Oops. Oh wait, that's not good. And so the B gets these same kind of critiques, right? Is that it's not very Christianly, not very Christian-y. You're breaking the 11th commandment, which is be nice. And so can you talk about kind of for the church, right? And for mild mannered conservatives who don't like the robust, unapologetic, no holds bar, punch back 3 times as hard approach. Can you kind of talk to that and defend that? Because I think in our crazy out of control culture of death, in this what iteration are we in the eugenics, transgender, gender cult mob? I don't know what iteration we're in. It's out of control. I'm like all hands on deck, no holds bar, go hard, expose bad ideas, wake people up, prick their conscience. Can you kind of offer a defense of that in this moment in the American
culture? You just
froze.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, you got me? Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, you finished that no holds barred. You're like 100% in. I've seen some of your stuff too, and I really appreciated the one speech that you sent over to make me watch. I love it because it's exactly what we do. It's a weird thing. It's so I got a lot of criticism when I first got into this, especially from my ministry people, from my Christians that are friends of mine, that are very kind people, and especially, and then also from my progressive Christian people that we know, which I don't really count them as Christians anymore. so they're kind of universalist Unitarian. Yeah, that's right. Like they don't believe in the authority of Scripture. They think that the substitutionary atonement is like cosmic child abuse, like that kind of stuff. They believe in abortion. They're not Christians. Like these are essentials of the faith. They believe something else. They're basically just kind of neo-Marxists with a little bit of Christian veneer on it. And so we got a lot of criticism from them, but I started getting all this criticism from other Christians. And so I wrote an article, actually. There's, if you can look it up on the B, but it's, the headline is, Elijah receives criticism from Israel for unloving criticism of prophets of Baal, or unloving satire of the prophets of Baal, something like that. And that's kind of the way I feel, because you're calling out this thing. It's kind of a prophetic voice, and then you get all these people that are like, wait, we shouldn't be mean. And we do this to all the lobbies that are dangerous right now. So like not just the pro-abortion, pro-death people. We are actually we lobby. I mean, like we make fun of even like the LGBTQAI, which nobody else does. Not nobody, but like we do it. And not I don't think it's in a mean-spirited way, but it's such a dangerous movement because of the fact that they're going after children, and they're grooming kids and trying to make kids into these sexual creatures. Like they're moving towards pedophilia, like all those things that we all know is happening. We're calling those things out. We kind of call it the Pink Army because they've organized so well. The military, I guess it was James, who is it? Chandler's fiance came up with that. James, what's his name? The Pink Army. He wrote a great book if you want to check it out. But yeah, it's kind of like we get this satire and they think, how do you justify this? And the truth is, okay, we are Protestants. Okay. I'm a Protestant evangelical. This is something that is definitely part of our history. Like if you go back, the main thinkers, the main people that have influenced our theology, like we're all like this, man. Read some Luther, for Pete's sake. I mean, obviously Luther was like, he was hardcore against his opponents. His anti-Semitism later, that was arguably when he was like senile. Anyway, but there's other people like, Charles Spurgeon. And I mean, they were just relentless on their opposition. And I feel like, so we come by it honestly, like as Christians and as Protestants in particular, and as evangelicals. But the other thing is Jesus himself, right? We look at like Matthew 23. So you got all the prophets going through all through history. Like, okay, Jesus, like you've got Jeremiah, you've got Elijah, you've got all these people like really, really just laying into their opposition. All these pagan people that were like sacrificing their kids and that kind of stuff. Same people that we're dealing with now. And then Jesus comes along and he looks at the religious leaders and those people that were abusing the religious system. And he goes after them in Matthew 23. And he calls them things like, you whitewashed tombs and you're blind leading the blind. I mean, like this is satire, right? I mean, it's like a particular kind of satire. It's mean spirited. You know what I mean? It's meant to be like, it's meant to prick those people's hearts and offend them and make them angry. Like these are the things that Jesus did. And people come back at us. They say things like, well, you're not Jesus. And it's like, well, that's true. But if every available type of communication that Jesus used is available to us, then we can do exactly this. We can use that type of communication. Jesus used it. You know what I mean? It's not like that's off limits. Like it's like, oh, we can only use these particular types of communication, like the love piece or the nice piece. I think it's loving to tell people the truth.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's kind of what that's to me. Yeah. That's where I get kind of passionate about defending sort of the satire or the way that we mock, the way that we laugh. Because at the end of the day, I don't think it's more loving to comfort someone in their while they're going to hell.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to make people feel better about their sin or about their lies, about the things that they're trying to peddle, or about their abuse of children or about their murder of children. Like, no, I don't feel the need to comfort someone in that worldview. And so anyway, that's kind of, and we try to do it in a way that's tasteful. We try to do it in a way that isn't just, because there's some people that send us stuff that is just insane, like really, really biting, super over the top. And we try to make it actually funny for both sides if we can. So that's kind of that's our goal, is definitely to make people laugh. Good. But I don't know. That's my
So
diatribe
Jarret,
on that. I believe very strongly about this. Yeah.
that's good. So Thomas Sowell kind of put it kind of what you're saying. He said when you want to help someone, tell them the truth. When you want to help
Mm-hmm.
yourself, tell them what they want to hear. Right.
Yeah.
And so much of, I think,
Smart.
liberalism today and progressive Christians and the woke Christianity is only telling, it's only focused on helping yourself, right? So you can keep your
Oh yeah.
501c3 status, so you don't offend the Democrats in your church, because then they might stop tithing to you, right? It's ultimately you're
Oh
helping
yeah.
yourself. You're not helping people who have believed and absorbed lies that are actually causing harm and destruction to them, to their family, and
Right.
ultimately to the culture. Because as goes the family, so goes the culture. And so
Yeah.
one of my favorite bits that you did and that Babylon B did, which you mentioned earlier, was Satan's like press response to Roe v. Wade getting overturned. And I talk a lot
Yeah.
about this, about the satanic, occult, demonic side of the abortion industry. Can you talk about sort of that skit? What was that like? And, how did you guys, what was Satan's response to Roe v. Wade getting overturned?
Yeah, so it was like, okay, to describe it if you haven't seen it, it was like a post-game interview. Like the coach is being interviewed on ESPN or whatever, and all the news reporters, like the ones from the New York Times are down there, like, in hell, interviewing him. And
Yeah.
and he kind of has that same cadence, that you would see, like, yeah, it's a tough game, like we really had a rough go, but we still got a great team out there of demons, the devils and Democrats, that are gonna really help us win the game. So don't count us out. There's always next year. Like we'll get them next year. And so it's kind of that premise. I love it because I love the Screw Tape Letters. I love Lewis, and utilizing kind of the devil as this foil is a great. I love it. It was originally going to be Molech, but we realized that the culture really isn't aware of Molech. And so we decided to make it Satan, so people would understand what was going on. But yeah,
Yeah.
like I just love the idea of the devil, and he's also like, he's kind of like a really nice guy. Like, you'd probably want to sit down and hang out with him, like, have a beer and be like, yeah, tell me more. It's like, yeah, it's good. We're having a good time. We're going to put some more of those long unskippable cutscenes in video games. That's what we're working on now. The paper straws, we got that too. Amy Schumer's comedy special. We're moving towards that. We're really excited about that one. And so all of hell rejoices when Amy Schumer, makes a joke. And it's like, I don't know. I just think it's a great opportunity to kind of throw like a bunch of people under the bus too, which is what we did. We threw, Jen Hatmaker and all those, like Rachel Hollis and
Yeah.
all those sort of like pseudo-Christian self-help people, progressives. And we threw them under the
That's right.
bus, Nancy Pelosi, all the Republicans that got their mistresses pregnant, like, so we got to kind of go after the entire establishment. You know what I mean? Like, so I know that
Yeah.
there's legit people out there fighting this thing, but there's a whole system on both sides that have not done enough or have done too much
Yeah.
to murder children.
That's right.
So it was great to be able to throw them under
That's
the
right.
bus in that way and make people laugh at the same time and wear all that
Yeah. Yeah.
red
That's
paint.
right.
Like I started working out really hard after that because I was like, oh my gosh, because they made me go shirtless in the video. And so I had all this
That's
red paint
awesome.
on me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had to start working out. I was like, shoot, Jarret, jeez. Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
anyway,
Uh,
yeah.
so Jarret, one of the things I've talked about a lot, and my team actually cut up this comment from a podcast episode recently, and it's like, pushing 500,000 on Instagram, because I think, like what the Babylon Bee does, sometimes you can communicate something in a certain way, or sometimes you're just identifying what these people say about themselves and letting them speak for themselves, and like that communicates all that you need to, that you don't even have to embellish sometimes. And so just to bolster your point, because I just thought the Satan's response to Roe v. Wade was so brilliant. There's an abortion center in Portland named the Lilith Center. It's called the Lilith
Oh,
Center. And then there's an
that's
abortion fund.
appropriate. Yeah.
that helps raise funds to help pay for women to get abortions when they don't have the money to kill their children, and it's called the Lilith Fund. So you have an abortion clinic and you have a
Yeah.
fund, and they both have
Right.
named themselves after Lilith, a demon in Jewish folklore who would kill babies and cause miscarriages and prey on pregnant women. It's like, so just to bolster your point, it's like, this stuff is not just to get clicks. This stuff is actually the truth. That's the reality.
No, absolutely. I mean, like, they're not even hiding it anymore. It's like that statue that was in downtown New York that looks like that kind of, what is it, ISIS statue that they just put out. And it's like, it represents feminism and the freedom of women. And it's like, obviously this old golden goddess from like ancient times that people worshipped before. And so it's like, they're just springing up everywhere. Has horns, yeah. And and it's crazy because they're not even hiding their paganism anymore. I think that there's this drive towards the missing. It's like what Lewis said. It's like the materialist magician, where people believe in these spirits and they have control over this like otherworldliness, and they can sacrifice and do transactional relationships with these entities and spirits, and they do things that all the time. They're like, well, I need a law degree, I need a successful life, I must sacrifice my child in order to get this. And this is like as old as, the sun. Like, this has been happening since the beginning. Human beings have used this. And so I think in any context where children are being sacrificed in order for a good harvest or a good degree or a good life, it's a satanic thing. This has been an occult thing. It's been an occult practice from the beginning. So, I mean, I appreciate that you guys are doing that. And the whole Lilith thing is very interesting. Lilith was supposedly, according to mysticism too, like Adam's second wife. So yeah, where's, the one that didn't get any credit. Like, so she's become like the hero of the feminist, the third wave feminist, like Lilith, she stands up for us all.
Well,
but in the same way that the progressive Christians,
Lilith Festival,
the Lilith Fair, Lilith Fair. Yeah. Like,
Fair,
I remember. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. All that the great lesbian music of the 90s. Yeah. Like, it was very good. Great music, by the way. The Lilith Fair, the Indigo Girls, and anyway. So yeah, but but it is interesting with that because the devil, like Satan. This is what the progressive Christians are now saying. Like, Satan actually represents us. Like, he's the one that sort of defends us against God. Like, and so you get that kind of philosophy even in the progressive church now. So like in the mystical interpretation of Genesis, the devil actually represents us being rebellious against God, but finding who we really are, our own godhood. And so Lilith is kind of the same thing. She represents the same thing. I wonder if it's the same demon that they're worshiping.
That's right.
Probably.
That's really well said.
I hate that demon.
That's really well said. No, you're exactly right. The Satanic Temple in America will always say, like, oh, we don't worship Satan literally. We worship him, like, ironically. Like, because he represents this like rage against the machine, like get my own kingdom, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what what's his name wrote in Rules for Radicals, Saul Alinsky. He opens up his book by saying, I'm dedicating this book to the first rebel who in rebelling won himself his own kingdom. Lucifer. It's like, and so they say, like, Lucifer saying he represents our self identities, man. We're just always liberating ourselves, man. Always liberating ourselves from systemic structures and our own bodies, and that's why I'm not my body. That's why trans stuff, man, and Gnosticism. He just represents kind of who we are. So we don't actually believe in him. We're just worshiping him ironically, as if Satan cares how you worship him. Just continue to give him your children. And he will say yes and amen. So Jarret, I want you to talk about Nefarious as we're talking about the occult side and the demonic parts of our culture of death. I love Steve Deace. Don't know him personally, but got a ton of mutual friends. I love the Steve Deace show. He's always right over the target on the culture stuff, and as are you guys. And so I got a link to preview it, but I've been on the road. I haven't watched it yet. So I'm really excited to watch it. Tell us a little bit about, as we wind down, tell us a little about the Nefarious project.
Absolutely.
Kind of what's it about and why it's an important film right now in 2023.
Well, it's since we're dealing with all this. I mean, I've played these characters. I'm playing the Antichrist in a TV show coming up. There's a lot. I don't know why I keep getting cast as these guys. But it's weird, you know. I wasn't in Nefarious. I wasn't anything really important. I was like I was the guy that told the main actor where the phone was. So, but I did it really well. Yeah. So, but it was yeah. But honestly, really quick, the way that Satan doesn't care, the way that we nod to him, the way that we just bow our knee for a second, or we compromise one thing in order to get what we want. Like that's what the devil wants. That's when Jesus was tempted by the devil in the desert. He's like, I'll give you everything. Just bow down and worship me. It didn't even have to be multiple times, just once, you know, just like bow the knee for a second. And I feel like Christians are doing this all over the place. They're going, well, I'll just bow my knee for a second. You know, we look at it with acting and stuff. Just a second. I'll just make this one small compromise.
Wow.
And that is enough. That's enough for him. And so he doesn't really care. And we just did that recently with the second Satan video, where Satan is criticizing Sam Smith's performance at the Grammys. So I don't know if you've seen that one, but it's so good. Right. He's like, what happened to subtlety? This is just over the top. Like, you know, like, what? It's just, cringy. Yeah. So really funny. He's like, you know, I guess you just murder your babies, you know, stop dancing. I don't look like that. Like, I don't wear a top hat. Anyway, so Nefarious is about, it's about a psychiatrist who goes in to a penitentiary to interview this convict that is scheduled to be murdered that day, or it's scheduled to be killed, to be executed that night at 11 o'clock. He has to determine whether or not this guy is insane or not to justify the execution. If he's insane, he will not be executed. If he is not insane, he will be, because he's murdered a bunch of people. And so so he interviews this guy all day, and the guy says, well, he's like, you don't understand. I'm a demon. I'm not going to die. So I'll die tonight. I don't care if this body dies. And so the guy's like, okay, sure. And he goes, well, to prove it, he's like, you'll murder 3 people by the end of the day. And so the movie is, and he's like, yeah, okay, right. Not going to happen. So the whole movie is that. It's this process whereby this psychiatrist goes through these, like, I'm not going to give it away, but that's kind of it. And then through the process, wow. Steve Dace did a great job of revealing kind of the enemy's plans for the culture and how Jesus represents this and the enemy represents this. Chuck and Carrie have a really good sense of that stuff. You know, they're charismatic Catholics. It's very interesting. And they had fathers. They had these guys like exorcists on set, and it was very interesting to be part of that. So I got to be there for a few days, and it was great. And it's an incredible movie, in fact. So if you guys want to check it out, please do and support it. It's great if you can handle that kind of stuff. Not scary like a normal Exorcist movie. So, but check it out. Yeah, had a great time with it. Yeah,
that's awesome, Jarret.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, that's the kind of that's the kind of culture building, you know, and pushing back that needs to happen if we are going to see this ship called America start to turn again, to right the ship, to turn it around. If we're going to fix the direction of our country, that's the kind of stuff that we need to be doing, right? Because that's how the left won. They told stories, they inculcated their values and ideas into art, into film, right, into theater, into the schools, to shape the culture, to shift the culture. And culture is to us what water is to a fish. It's all we know. And so if you're not participating in creating healthy waters and healthy cultures, then other people will be poisoning the water hole with their movies, their ideas, their worldviews that become lenses through which the next generation sees the world. And that affects how they live, how they act, and how they vote. And so I'm so grateful for what you're doing, what the Babylon Bee is doing with this film. I plan to watch it this week. I'm overdue to watch it. And thanks for all you're doing, Jarret. Thanks for joining us on the show today. And hopefully we'll do more kicking Moloch in the nuts kind of activism and content together. And thank you, brother. Stand fast.
All right. Thank you guys for
having me. Where can people connect with you?
Good to talk to you.
Where can people follow you, connect with you, and stay in touch with what you are doing at the Bee?
Yeah. Follow me on Instagram. I kind of have my, the stuff that we do on there. The Jarret Lemaster, I guess, is the name of the Instagram now. I have my wife running it. So, but she always shows me the DMs. so if you want to hit me up there. And that's probably the best place to do it. And follow us at thebabylonbee.com. Go become a subscriber if you can. That's why it'd be a little bit of a push, but become a subscriber. You get behind the scenes content. You get access to the whole community, including us, the guys, the people on camera. Get to talk to us. Get to shoot out. You can even pitch headline ideas. So you can do that and become part of the community there. It's a pretty great community. Behind the scenes footage, bloopers, that kind of stuff. So become a subscriber. Go to thebabylonbee.com, sign up for a subscription, and then go to YouTube, sign up for a subscription there, and watch all of our video content and read all of our articles and support us and connect us. That's what we want. Yeah.
Awesome, Jarret. Well, thank you so much, man. Keep it up, and
Great.
Don't let the California commies get you down.
Okay, sounds good. I will do. All right. Bless you guys. May the odds be ever in your favor.
Thank you. Thank you guys for tuning in to the show today. Head on over to iTunes, Spotify, YouTube. Give the show a rating and review. Let us know what you think. We really appreciate it. Go subscribe on Rumble for if we're ever pulled from YouTube. We'll put Jarret's social media info and the Babylon Bee in the notes. Go follow him. Share Satan's replies to the leftist mob who are overplaying their hand. They're not doing a good enough job. They're not fulfilling their true father's wishes. So go share those videos. And until next week, I'm Seth Gruber, and this is Unaborted.